Toyota didn't become the world's largest motor manufacturer by happy accident. For starters, they build and sell enough cars to drive literally the entire African continent, never mind the rest of the world. They build cars that are sensible and up till fairly recently, despite a few recalls, are pretty reliable. Combine that with inoffensive styling and you have a brand that pleases most people most of the time. So what were they thinking when they built this? This is the FJ Cruiser, and it pays some sort of homage to the Land Cruisers of old, but it certainly isn't sensible looking. Designed primarily to satisfy the US and Middle East markets, it is unashamedly square and unashamedly Hummer-esque. It uses the Prado platform, but manages to look a lot smaller than its luxury cousin, and a lot more appealing. My first reaction to the FJ was that it looks like something that NASA should be driving on some distant planet. For me, it has a distinct moon buggy look to it. And despite the fact that it's just over 4.5 meters long and just under 2 meters wide, it is strangely compact. Another oddity about this thing is the color. Our test car, which is the Desert Cruiser, makes do with a white roof, but a limited edition body color. If you're going to get an FJ, make sure it's this one. It looks pretty naff in colors like silver. Chunky door handles, a low, wide stance and squared off everything seems to be a winning recipe. I thought the look of the FJ Cruiser would be a pretty polarizing one, but so far, every single person I've met, everyone loves it. Despite the fact that it has only 2 door handles, it is in fact a 4-door, another bit of design that, along with the looks, goes a long way to endowing this truck with character. On the inside, the character building continues with chunky switchgear and lots of squareness, and despite looking compact from the outside, there is lots of space in here. And it's not nearly as utilitarian as you might think. Sure, you don't get toys like a trip computer, but there's a decently long list of other standard stuff. Cruise control, aircon, USB, Bluetooth, electric windows and mirrors, and a lot of plastic. Maybe a bit too much plastic for the 450,000 Rand asking price, some of which, like the silver bits, feel as though they belong in a less serious off-roader. Yes, this is a serious off-roader. There are plenty of storage spots for your outdoor survival gear or your coffee mug and cell phone, depending on your persuasion, and the one thing the FJ has plenty of is comfort. It just fits right and feels good. There are a few versions of FJ Cruiser, but only one engine option, and this is it. A 4-litre V6 with 230 kilowatts and 380 Newton meters. Your gearbox choices are similarly limited to one, a 5-speed automatic with low range. Told you it was a serious off-roader. Sadly though, this is another capable 4x4 that will more than likely spend its life doing the mundane school run rather than making a trip to the Serengeti. Its owners will say that it's just too good looking a machine to be subjected to the great outdoors, even though, much like its competition the Hummer, it will conquer a lot more than anyone would expect it to. Which is even more of a pity when you find out how the FJ performs on road. I mean, the view is great, you've got all this narrow glass and all this space, but the 4-litre engine is very thirsty, and the automatic gearbox hunts for gears. And that means on the open road, despite the fact that it's got cruise control and it's called a cruiser, it doesn't feel like the most effortless journey in the world. The ride setup is soft and spongy, and it never feels like anything except a big off-roader, but the constant changing of gears on the open road makes it feel as though it's constantly struggling to get comfortable. Those are not small things to consider when making a purchase of this size. But it's also not the whole story. But if you are one of those owners who goes off-road, you will confirm what is patently obvious from the outside. This car much prefers the dirt. I mean, it just looks and it feels like it wants to drive over a couple of thorn bushes and climb up a mountain. I love this car, I really do. I'm gonna have to find a space in my fantasy garage for one. It's very special, this car. It gets attention wherever it goes, it's not your everyday run-of-the-mill 4x4, and it wraps you up in a sense of real mechanical wonder. I was actually inspired by the FJ Cruiser. One day, when I'm really rich and have nothing better to do, I want to drive one around the world, because that just feels like it's the kind of thing the FJ would enjoy doing. The FJ Cruiser is not perfect. The engine is thirstier than a fleet of tanks, and the gearbox feels positively Mesopotamian. But it is one of those cars whose character completely outstrips its shortcomings. When you see it, you just want to drive it, and once you start driving it, you don't want to stop. You can keep your cheaper Fortuner or your more luxurious Prado. Make mine an FJ. A strong V6 offers all the urge you'll need on and off the road. An auto transmission with transfer case makes for user-friendly progress regardless of terrain. The result is a hugely capable off-roader with loads of crowd-pleasing character, but that engine is thirsty and the old-school gearbox disappoints in everyday driving.